Yeah, but I keep everything to myself. So I want to start off saying thanks for the invite to the conversation. Um, and from listening to the introductions and listening to more about what the project is about, it's making me feel like I should probably share more than what I probably anticipated sharing before I got into the call. Um, so I'm not sure what you guys have kind of seen or kind of stumbled on. But I'm gonna give you guys I'm gonna try to give a good intro to me and where I am, like right now, because I feel like I should share because this might be it sounds like it could be a bigger opportunity than maybe I actually anticipated. Um, born and raised Cleveland, Ohio, born in the projects. Mom started moving us on up, got us all the way to southeast side, from Kinsman to Tarkington, Clearview area. Um, I went to two schools, Cleveland School, Corlett, and then Cleveland School of the Arts. Um, I like to tell people that I always give a young version of myself as my intro. Maybe because I'm 40, but another part of it is it's significant to who I am. um, so ultimately, I had 13 years perfect attendance, right? I was the only boy associated with all of the females in all of my classes early on based on perfect attendance and productivity. I'm in my environment, I'm one of very few people who would probably identify as the good kid, right? So I pursued photography starting at 13. I go to OU. I moved to New York. I go to enough galleries and museums while I'm in New York to say, I thought I was supposed to go back to Cleveland when I was 80. I think I'm supposed to go back to Cleveland now. Nothing is more creative than that. It was me in the middle of the digital photography revolution. My first 8 years with the camera was film in darkroom. My professional jobs in New York City was me printing and developing for photographers that I had learned about. I had already helped Cleveland School of the Arts shift their digital program by way of bringing all of my syllabus to my teacher and telling her, listen, it's going that direction. Like, I don't care what you're telling me. I'm in college. The requirement for the students is a digital camera when my requirements was a $3,500 medium format camera. So that kind of started me on this journey of what I'm learning, being the translator of it. So art education for me as an educator started probably about 19 or 20 because I'm like, oh, nobody around me knows this stuff. So study photography. I figure out the voids that I care to fill. I reject all of the opportunities that are put in front of me to be some successful black photographer taking pictures of uncomfortable situations for white photographers and ultimately delivering and telling someone else's narrative. In that process, what happened is I relocated to Cleveland at 28 years old, and I felt like I needed to get a foundation under myself in a way that I hadn't had prior. Being that, I'm raised, my mom, family, that sort of thing. So I needed my own legs in the ground. So I worked with Cleveland School of the Arts, Cleveland Public Library, young audiences. I started Newberry's photo program, Cleveland Print Room, Arts Collinwood, Land Studio, Cleveland Public Art, all of the CDCs, Buckeye Development, Harvard Community, Mount Pleasant Now, Cleveland Foundation, Gun Foundation. I recognize that the inner city kid gone good. I kind of had access to all these people who didn't know me as an adult. So the CEOs of all of these programs that was benefiting a kid born in 1980 were familiar with me based on my experience as a creative child. So if at 28 my imagination is starting to open wider than what being an artist allowed my imagination to do, what happened is I became the elephant in all of the rooms. Because I was no longer able to keep in my frustration and the things that I could see that the environment that I was in didn't seem to see. So I went from the inner city kid gone good to the disruptive black man who's making everybody uncomfortable. unknowingly, right? So what that did is that isolated me, and it isolated me to the point where I have full access to my community and neighborhood because I go and I put murals up illegally if I need to. And what that turned into is me being able to get a commission from the library or land studio or somebody who recognized that I'm not going anywhere. Like I said, I rejected all of the opportunities to be this black photographer shooting stuff that means nothing to me. I primarily have been photographing black people from an insider's perspective that that my life's experience continuously puts in front of me. So I'm sitting on 3 million photographs, 70 terabytes of it is organized. I have, thousands of hours of video. I've been wrapping caskets in the neighborhood. I've been putting up teddy bear memorial wraps on trees for the folks around me. I am filling a void that no one's ultimately talking about on a public scale. Me being the disruption doesn't allow me to get much visibility or exposure from all of the projects that I participate on. I'm usually often used for my name and not for my image. So what happens is if they want black people to come in the room, they usually put Donald in there, and they seem to tolerate me. When the Workforce Fellowship reveals $150 million of $150 million being generated in the discrepancy to black artists based on CAC, the Syntax, Cleveland Foundation, and all those things, I'm one of the first people to get called and says, the system is broken, and Donald is an example of that. So all of the committees that was brought up around it, I'm knee deep in all of the stuff with black people in our neighborhood saying that they at least trust that the truth will come out of the conversations, even if the experience that black artists and community people, even if that doesn't change. So I started feeling a level of responsibility to be an honest voice when I'm interacting with all this stuff that I'm learning that I didn't know existed. And in that process of me being dangled a space and opportunities that never really came to fruition, I got a building from the land bank, which turned into a demolition next door to my building about 2-3 weeks later. The demolition next door to my building in Mount Pleasant turned into a 20-foot hole in the wall of my building. And in that situation with the 20-foot hole, the city of Cleveland, they condemn my building, tell me they have nothing to do with causing the damage, that there's nothing I can do other than sue them. So I call at least 7 lawyers that I know, that I've learned and met through the art world, and they all were under contract with the city of Cleveland, so it was a conflict of interest. So then the city of Cleveland decides to knock down my now condemned building with a 20 by 10 foot hole inside of the wall and send me a $30,000 bill for it a few days ago and cite my lot now that I've put a trailer box on there to store my photo equipment to shoot portraits, and me in the process creating a fence on my lot to show my work because the art world of Cleveland doesn't have a market for the images that I have to show. And I feel that my images are significant enough for the city to continue to see them, is why I initially started creating murals. So what I wanted to share all the way up until right now, because ultimately I could really use help. I could use help in a lot of different ways. And the number one thing is kind of visibility and the narrative that travels with me. Oftentimes my significant conversations with people are white people and not really a pool and population of black people who are in position to support my growth. I get commissioned. I might get somebody might pay me to serve for some service. But who I am and the initiative that I've generated and created within myself and a small community of people around me don't really tend to get much support. I've jumped through all of the hoops, and parts of the system don't really seem to be designed for me to have a traditional entry. So to learn a very little bit about what you guys are doing and working on, and having a small understanding of what might be expected of me in terms of my participation in the website and image contribution, I felt like I was gonna be kicking myself not to tell y'all, like, I could really use some help, and I can perceive a couple different ways how um, my images could be utilized and engaged with by way of what you guys are doing. Um, I'm not seeing the images used in a stock photography kind of scenario. I'm not I'm not assuming that that's what you guys were suggesting, but when I perceive and think about stock photography, it's very much we don't know who the photographer is. And what I started to imagine is that our collaboration may be able to be a point to help highlight me as an artist while the images are being used. Right now, I'm currently in a presentation that for the Green Book project that a few friends of mine are working on in New York, and they are kind of delivering what they're doing to Rockefeller. And the way that I've been able to be utilized in this collaboration is the images are used in a way that they're connected to Donald Black Jr. as the artist and kind of really helping visibility. And I was on that call for a couple hours earlier, and that was the main update, that the images and the use of the images is the number one point of conversation for this initiative that's trying to generate $50 million. And the images are kind of like, this is a collaboration more than it's a license for the image or a commission for work, but it's a way to leverage me as a photographer in ways that the traditional art world is not. So yeah, I can keep going, but I can pause there.
Let me take a stab at something first. Because you put a lot out there, brother. You started the conversation by saying, based on what you heard from us, you hadn't anticipated that it would, go down this road. It's much bigger than you may have thought. And I think it's the reverse. We came to this conversation thinking that it would be simplistic and transactional, and what you presented was transformational. Transformed each of us, capturing your life and your experiences of inequity with the purpose of why we have this fund. And so for me, the Cleveland Black Equity and Humanity Fund is about your life, it's about your work, and how we capture the essence of everything that we are doing, even down, you just like taught me. I can't speak to my colleagues, but I know them. But you just taught me that we cannot afford to overlook any crack or crevice in our communication to portray the message of equity. So
Mm,
many people, whether it be the arts world or the tech world or whatever world, they're going through the fight that you